Welcome to Hook to Knot. In this January on 26th, we will be celebrating 75th Republic Day of India. To celebrate Republic Day in crochet way, I am doing a surprise project. In this video tutorial, I am going to show you how I say I am Indian without actually saying it. For making that surprise project, I am going to need yarn in tricolor of India, that is orange color, green color and white color. Of course, the center part of it would be dark blue. To start with our surprise project, I am going to make a magic ring. Pull up a loop, chain 2. I will make cluster of 3 DC and total 8 clusters in the magic ring, so that I have those 24 spokes around the center. So cluster number 1, chain 2. Now I will do cluster number 2. Again chain 2. Likewise, I will do cluster 8 and slip stitch into the very first stitch and will complete this round. After completing line 1, I have intentionally done once line number 2 and frogged it so that the spaces come out very nicely. So now I have 8 chain 2 spaces. For second round, I will attach white color. Actually, I can attach it to any of the chain 2 spaces, but I prefer to attach it one cluster before the end of this blue color yarn. Pull up a loop, do your first stitch with the shorter tail, chain 2. Now for this line, I am going to make cluster of 2 DCs only. So cluster of 2 DC separated by chain 2, cluster of 2 DC again in the same space. So in 8 spaces of chain 2, I will have total 16 clusters of 2 DC each separated by chain 2. Please understand, I am not doing any chain in between the clusters. So I do a cluster, chain 2, next cluster in the same space, directly jump to the next chain 2 space, cluster 1, chain 2, cluster 2, directly jump to next chain 2 space, cluster, chain 2, cluster. After 16th cluster is done, I am going to slip stitch into the very first cluster, complete the circle, but I am not going to cut the yarn. I am going to slip stitch one more time, and line number 3 also will be with white color. So cluster, chain 2, cluster in the same space. What differently I am going to do for this line is, in between these 2 clusters, I am just going to add one more cluster of 2 DCs and then move to the next cluster. So what differently I have done for line number 3 is cluster 1, chain 2, cluster 2 in the same space. In between two clusters I have made one cluster of 2DC. Move to the next cluster, again cluster 1, chain 2, cluster. I have added one cluster of 2DC in between the two clusters, and after I complete this line I am going to cut the yarn and take next color, which is green color. As my closing for this color is here, I am going to start my new color from this chain 2 space. Line number 4 I have done with green color. I have continued pattern of corner on corner, and around that one cluster I have made two clusters. Now if you look at this, the shape is not looking circle in any way. So for the last line in orange color, what I am going to do is, even in this chain 2 space I am just going to do one cluster. This will make the whole magic, and this octagon kind of a structure will change into circle, full circle. So line number 4 in green color, corner on corner, that is two clusters of 2DC each separated by chain 2, chain 1, cluster 1, chain 1, cluster 1, chain 1, two clusters, chain 1, cluster 1. So this time I have added chain 1 after each cluster, and for the corners it is chain 2 between the clusters. Chain 2, next cluster, chain 1, again chain 1, and last cluster, chain 1 after the cluster and slip stitch into the very first cluster to complete the line. One more slip stitch and pull up the loop, cut the yarn, and we are good to change the color for next line. Our last line will be in orange color. Taking two strands together, make a moving knot. I am going to join here. First stitch is always with the shorter tail or the tail, which I will weave in. Cluster 1. Now here, this being last line, I am making cluster of 3DC, chain 1, in the next space again cluster of 3DC, chain 1, into the next space cluster of 3DC, and chain 1. Now I have come to a space of chain 2, but here also I am going to do only one cluster and move on. So cluster of 3 DC and chain 1 and move on to the next space. You weave in the ends properly while working itself. You have no pending work later on. This is going to be our last line. I am doing only one cluster even in the chain 2 or 2 clusters space, and that is what is converting my octagon or cornered angle into a circular space. Now this is how my final work will look. This you can use as a tea coaster, but I am going to make something different. What it could be? Any guess? You can make 6 such small doilies and make set of tea coasters for yourself. What I'm going to make is a coin pouch, because for me India is prosperity, India is money, India is investment. So when I want to make coin pouch, I am going to stitch 2/3 part of the circle and leave open 1/3 part. Of course, I will do lining and a chain on it. I have stitched 2/3 portion and kept 1/3 portion open, and this pouch can hold lots of coins. I am going to send it to the tailor who will do the lining part of it. But if you are not comfortable with stitching, or you don't have anybody who can do lining, you can just weave in threads and put drawstrings and use it as a potli. Another thing I'm going to do for myself is earpod cover with this. So I will put this doily on one side, and for other side I have created a white color doily with orange border. Now what is special about this earpod cover is I am going to add logo of Indian currency on it. This is my way of saying I am Indian without actually saying it. You can attach this logo by 2 methods. Either by sticking logo onto the doily by using glue gun or stitching. Me being me, I will prefer stitching method. So I am going to use this color yarn for stitching so that my stitching will remain invisible. For earpod covers, I am going to leave only this much portion open, and rest I will stitch it together. I am going to stitch it with line of SC. My earpod cover is ready, and I love my India. Happy 75th Republic Day to all. You can also put lots of remaining woolen pieces or thread pieces and sew total sides and make this as a back tag when you are traveling abroad. Proud to be Indian. Happy 75th Republic Day to all. Thank you for watching this video. Kindly like, share and subscribe to my channel, Hooked or Not.